Okay, I'm gonna try to make a quick guide for the differences between single player and co-op in HP4 because there's a lot of little things that make a big difference that aren't really super obvious. A lot of ways to make the tricks more consistent too. So first of all, the current fastest route that we have, and routing this is actually pretty complicated because there's a lot of splits that are very close in time, a lot of shields that are really close together. The current fastest route, we believe, is the bathroom minis route. So the same as the typical any percent route, but instead of getting the tower pillars, the smashing pillars shield, we get bathroom minis instead because bathroom minis benefits a lot from co-op. Um, for the most part, this isn't too difficult, especially in co-op, because you can split in multiple directions, and it makes some of the really annoying ones easier to get. But there's one mini that's pretty tricky to get that we actually don't get properly in this run, so I would suggest checking like the any percent route to see where we get those minis. Yeah, we make a mistake in this run, and I don't think I have a alternative. But yeah, so splits are the same as current any percent. There's not much difference in the first two levels. Anything that you'll pick up, you'll just kind of figure out. Playing as two players saves time just about anywhere. Ape figured out recently that you can actually make it past this log. It only works in co-op, to our knowledge. It only works with Hermione, to our knowledge, and it has something to do with the camera position. But when you get knocked over, you can sometimes just hold like up left and make it past this. And we don't know exactly how it works, but maybe we'll figure it out later. Once again, log skip can only be performed by Hermione. She needs to be frontmost. This one works. So as soon as that happens, you want your second player to drop out. Having only one player also makes rock skip a lot easier because otherwise you have just this massive dug bogs that are surrounding you that are really hard to deal with. I mess it up here, but yeah, it is definitely a lot easier with two players, or with one player instead of two. If you, this is something that is applicable to all HP4 runs, but I don't think it's in the current tutorial. There's an invisible wall that spawns here while the rocks, or after the rocks have fallen, and it goes away after a couple of seconds. But there's a gap on the right side, so if you just hug this right wall, you might have to turn right a bit, but you can literally just sneak past, and it saves a couple of seconds. This level's the same. You want to jinx this first one to death. It's just a little bit faster. Try to get both players to cast on these first fires if you can. You just put the fires out faster. If you are going for some extra swag, you can get Hermione to join in some of the casts by having one player stop casting just for a second. So we got 3 there. Now I stop casting. That lets Hermione join in. It saves a very small amount of time. It's probably not even that worth it. Obviously split up here after you kill the first salamander. One person get the bottom one person get the top one. You can move during that cutscene, but it's kind of tricky to like not get stuck on the walls. Yeah, one person should put out the fire, one person should jinx the salamander. Now, if you're going to go for fire skip, since we have 2 players, we don't have to worry about the AI, just stun each of the salamanders, and then you won't have to deal with them at all. It takes 4 hits to stun one, so both of you can do it. Then once you're stunned, pull on the bridge. Ideally, you'd be able to get past this without dying, but because of how everything goes a little faster in co-op, so you're on actually a pretty bad cycle. So these fires going up the tower, you'll take damage from a lot of them So having more than like 80 health is pretty tricky by the time you get here. But whichever character has more health, go with them. Run into the fire, then hold down, kind of down right, and you'll make it past. Not worth dropping a second character back in here. The AI will put out this left fire for you if you're lucky, which is faster than having a second player there to put it out for you. Tower blocks is pretty simple, the same as any percent. Same thing with block skip, other than you can move the blocks a little faster. These gates that you open, in general, I advise only opening them with one player. If you open them with two, sometimes you'll pull them so hard that they'll open all the way and then close all of the way. That's particularly common with the gate in Forest. But it can happen here too. So I suggest only using one character to do that. Using two players to make these go a little faster. One thing that needs testing is it might be better to wait to break the second wall until after the block is moved, because then you don't have to deal with this cauldron respawning, so you can just get the cast on it quicker. So like, yeah, we lose a bit of time here because I had to cast on that cauldron. Yeah, you can get like a 101 with the regular strats, but putting off this wall might be able to save a little bit more than that, or at least might be able to make the time save more consistent. Forest, if one person stands right here and uses Axio, and one person stands right here, it tends to just sneak through the blocks quicker. Like, that's a lot faster than we'd usually be able to get it in single player. That needs more testing. But in our limited runs, that seem to help. Forest minis doesn't save nearly as much time in co-op as it does in any percent. So there are potentially routes that could skip this in favor of other things like pillars or bathroom return or something like that. One thing to be careful about with this mini is you don't want to stand too close to the boobotubers or you will get hit instead of them, which is very bad. It's possible to get both players to fire skip here. It's not really that important. If you fail it, drop out. And yeah, that's about the only other change in Forest. Scroot 2. So on the first two Forest splits, it's typically better to just use one character until you get to the boobotuber, because otherwise it's really easy for the second player to get caught on the dug bogs, because they'll immediately swarm them instead of you. So we usually wait to bring in the second player until we get over here. And even when you do bring them in, like, Harry and Hermione are way up here, so the camera's gonna freak out. Or Harry's down there for some reason. Ron kills the Scroot, Harry gets the mini. Oh, yeah, I didn't mention. Because we're getting so many combined casts, you should have more than enough mastery in order to buy cards either directly before or directly after Forest. It helps a lot after Forest. You'll be fine without getting it before Forest. It might be better to buy a couple of Jinx Up cards for Harry, especially if you're having trouble in Herbology, because that will let you stun the Mosps a little quicker. We only bought them for Ron in this run. But there could be some merit in getting him for Harry too. Dragon, same thing as Scroot. Only play as one player until I get to about here. The second player is going to be worth a lot more just stunning the dog bogs than they are destroying stuff. Or like shooting the booba-tubers. When you get over here, you want just one person to go for the mini, if you can. Wow, we got destroyed there. So one person goes up and grabs the mini, the second person stays close to this fire, and you want to try to get the shield right after they get the mini, but obviously don't go too quick or you're going to be kind of screwed. Minis. You want the second player. One of these dug bogs always follows you, so whichever one does, you want the second player to stun. That's going to make getting these a lot easier. And then obviously split up when you get to the top. One person get the mini, one person get the shield. The person who gets the mini drops out because camera blocks them. First task is just first task. Egg. Now this is where things start getting a little ridiculous. So again, we need to do bathroom minis because that saves a lot of time here. It saves even more in co-op than it does in 90%, just because we can multitask a lot better. But it makes things complicated. So first things first, destroy these pipes on the right. Once it loads in, right? Yeah, you want to destroy the pipes first, because if you destroy them afterwards, you have to wait for the invisible wall to go away. So destroy them now so that you don't get stuck on the way over. And then pull down this bridge. So one player is going to lift this cauldron, and you want to hit the right like hot water tank, and the other person's going to run over to grab the mini, and as soon as they grab the mini, drop out. You can't go very far down here because of camera. That's going to save walking over there and walking back. You're typically better off pulling this bridge with the AI than you are with another player because the AI can cast from down here and you can't. So while you're waiting for the AI, grab this cauldron to hit this water tank. That's the second mini. And yeah, right there, Harry casts from this middle platform instead of the top. Oh, that's... Okay, no, we get this sorted out. Okay, so one thing that's really, really, really important here, which we actually mess up, and that's not great, because I'd like to be able to show this off better, is the AI behaves differently around different characters. So right here, what's going to happen is we need one character and an AI to take the top path, and the other character to take the bottom path. So typically, you'd be going into this with Ron and Harry, which means Hermione is the character that's left out. She's the AI character. Hermione always follows Harry. So whoever is playing as Harry needs to take the top path, and whoever is playing as Ron needs to take the bottom half. In this case, we were Ron and Hermione, and we didn't know how Harry would behave that way. So I dropped out as Ron, switched to Harry, so I can take the top path, Flo can take the bottom path, and we're assuming Ron's going to follow Harry. And I think that's how it works out here. The second thing is, if you go too fast here, the AI will get stuck on this corner. So you want to make sure that they like visibly walk across the top path. So if you can get the top player to run a little bit further along and the bottom player to lag behind a bit, that can help out. So one of the big things about this game is everything is restricted by camera movement, and this is the first spot where it's not just your movement, but the things that you can cast at are restricted by your camera movement. So if Hermione, or if your second player, is all the way over by this steam, the top of this bridge is too far away for you to cast at, and you can't reach it. So you need to be at least over here, like behind this block, or further to the left. Yeah, so like, because Hermione's so far back, I can reach the top of the bridge, and if she were too far to the right, I wouldn't be able to. Yeah, pull down this bridge. And then we need to do 4 things. We need to pull both of these, break the pipes over here, and we need to get this hot water heater too. And it's probably better to get it here than it is to get it in a later stage. I don't know, it's pretty close. It takes a while for your AI to get up to the top over here, so you might as well break the pipes first. And then I grab this and break the water tank while I'm waiting for Ron. That way I can grab the mini and drop out. Okay, now this is our one big routing mistake of this run. So right here, you would stop and you'd want to get this mini now. This is the only time that we take this path going down, so it's the easiest spot to get this. Let's see if I can find where I do it. Okay. So the strat to do this isn't that bad. It's a little funny. But you stand right here at the top. You have to be above the top of the stairs, otherwise you'll just like jump down the stairs. It's really annoying. But grab this cauldron and move it over to the right. This shot is the only hard one. This is the only hard mini to get in this level. Everything else is like way easier than it looks. So yeah, you'd stand up here in the story mission, grab this, throw it down, and then by the time you get to the bottom of the stairs, you only have to wait like half a second to grab the mini, and that saves a bit of time. Let's see, where were we? Yeah, so we should grab this mini here, but we don't. That's the one. And then everything from here on out is, there's one more mini, yeah. So pull down the bridge. You can actually, there's a cauldron over here we want to grab and throw into the water tank over here, which you can actually grab before the bridge is pulled down. It's really easy in 3-player, because once 2 people are pulling on this bridge, the 3rd player can just grab it. It saves a bit of time in 2-player, but if you don't get it, it's not worth like retrying. Just pull the bridge and then throw it later. And then everything from here on out is pretty standard, same thing as 90%. If a character dies, drop out immediately, because you don't want the camera to be restricted by their movement. I think we messed this up too. Yeah, we do. Okay, so the difficult high-level strat that saves a little bit of time and is much harder. You have Ron stand up here, grab this cauldron, and blow up the pipes immediately. And then the other character runs down. Then whoever blew up the pipes runs onto this platform and gets down into this corner. And from this corner, you can actually reach the block with a player character if the camera's scrolled down far enough. So that saves you from having to climb up both of these ledges again. This only works in co-op. It's pretty tricky. It's probably not that worth it. But we messed up, so we had to do this. And then we need this mini, but we also want camera to be in a good position. So we're going to break the pipes, and then Ron's going to jump off here and grab the minis while Harry grabs the shield. And the camera's in just the right position that if you stand in this corner, Here you can still see what he's doing enough to grab the shield. Bridges. So there's a bunch of Urklings that spawn in this level, but they don't spawn if you're in co-op and if the characters are close together. So whoever's player 1 should slow down a bit to make sure that you two are right next to each other, because it keeps these two from spawning. And it keeps these two from spawning. And then we need both of the minis in these water tanks back here. It helps a lot to have one of the characters put out the fires. Your AI will probably get the last one for you, and it keeps the salamanders from just messing you up. Not really a big time save, just kind of keeping you from losing extra time. Okay, this is the worst split in the game. This is the hardest co-op strat that we've come up with. It's really ridiculous. It's really difficult. But if it works, it saves a lot of time. So one person grabbed the mini from the bottom, other person grabbed the book from the top. And now this is where the nonsense begins. So I like to open this first lily before we enter the cutscene. It saves a little bit of time, and it gives you some extra room to move around while dealing with the first mosp. So whoever is the first one there, start opening the lily, and then the second person needs to lag behind just a bit so that you're not entering the cutscene until this is like almost finished. Because it'll finish opening in the cutscene, but you don't want to interrupt it too soon or it'll close back up. Mashing Jinx here, for some reason, sometimes causes this guy to not spawn. And it also makes it easier for you to just stun him once you get back into the level. So I usually do that with Ron. These guys are pretty rough to deal with in co-op. And then, so the typical strategy for this room is to go all the way around this right path, grab the two minis, come back, pull down the bridge, come back, and go all the way down and across the bridge. But because we're in co-op, we can do both of these paths at the same time. So the idea is you have one character take the top path, one character take the right path, pull down the bridge, and then you both work your way down the level at the same time. So open up some lily pads first, and then you want one character to pull this early, and this is really tough because this is pretty much a blind shot. But you want to get this done early with while you still have some decent control of the camera and some decent control of movement. So I think we get pretty lucky there and we get a good shot. You need to be really careful about when you split up here. Like Ron needs to be on one of the, whichever character is taking the top path needs to be right around here in order for the other character to get around. If you go too far down, the camera's going to lock you from moving around the top path. And one character pulls down the bridge, and then the other person starts taking the top path. It helps for your second character to hit this little thing here. It attracts the mosps and stops them from hitting you so much. So that makes pulling down this bridge a lot easier. This is also camera restricted, so it helps to be a little bit further down than we were. This corner is blind and camera restricted, so you need to stand right here. Like, you have to stand absolutely at the top of this lily pad or Ron won't be able to make it around. And you have to just kind of know when to hold down right to make it around. Then once you're down here, this character can help cast on the lily pads to make things go a little faster. I would recommend having Ron here because you have to deal with these two mosps. That'll distract the mosps long enough to get past. Make sure you get the mini before you go through the door. You don't have to drop out. Going through the door puts you both back together. I would suggest practicing this. I think we have save states in the Discord somewhere that'll help you do this. But yeah, like the positioning of where each character stands at pretty much every point matters a lot. Um, because again, camera movement is just really important in co-op. Um, yeah, that's about the only interesting thing left in herbology. The only other thing is that it's a little tiny bit faster to have one character wrap around to the right here and pull down the bridge instead of trying to pull it down from the side here. We get kind of wrecked, but it saves a bit of time. And then yeah, just have whoever pulls it down drop out. If you can manage it, once you do Extremos, have Ron do all the killing and let the other character just open the lily pads. Obviously, you don't have a lot of control over what happens, but if you can make it work, that's a decent time save. Greenhouse. Again, if you're somewhat close together when you're going into this loading zone, the mosps have a much lower chance of spawning. It's not zero. They can still spawn. They can still wreck you, but it makes it a lot more likely for you to have a good time with this. Booba Tuber isn't special. Really don't do anything different. Make sure your second player doesn't go too far up or it's going to spawn all of the dug bogs. So wait for the shot. Wait until you like are pretty sure the shot's going to hit before you run up. Bridges has a neat strat in it. So you can start casting from way over here. Then the other character runs up to grab the mini. Then you want one person to take this left path and one person to take the right path. So in single player, if you take this left path, you have to wait for the camera to pan in order to start pulling this bridge, and it loses a couple of seconds. But in co-op, because you have a character here, the camera stays panned, and you can cast at it immediately. And then this player can just drop out so that the other one can grab the shield. And that's like a 5-second time save. Let's see, we get a 117 there. My single player gold is a 125, so 8 seconds. Lilies isn't particularly special. This is actually way harder to do than it looks. So you only need to cast on this middle lily pad, and Harry can hit it from the bottom, but it's not easy to do. Exterior lilies, nothing special, just, split up who's casting at what. That is a bad example. Yeah, just like cast on different things, it makes it go faster. Bathroom lilies. So these are the last lilies we need. These are the last minis we need to get. The first one is really easy. Run over here, grab this cauldron, and just kind of hold left, maybe up left a little. Like, if you just know where this hot water tank is vaguely and you aim in its direction, you'll hit it just about every time. It's really easy to hit. And then by the time you get over here, it'll already be spawned and you can grab it. We have to grab this one because we forgot it in story. But then, if you're not grabbing this one, not here at least, you want to do the same kind of strat to grab this one. And then here, once again, we're going to split in 2 different directions once this bridge is pulled down. So we need to pull one of the taps, so we need Hermione, the AI, so Hermione has to follow Harry. So Harry's going to take the top path, Ron's going to take the bottom path. And then if you haven't already gotten this mini, this isn't a bad spot to do it because you have to wait for Hermione to run up anyways. And then we get confused here and he waits too long to drop out. And then this guy likes to follow you, but it's not worth dropping in another player here. The amount of time you save just isn't enough. And then minis, just grab the mini, and then tasks are the same as any %. So that's about it. Obviously a lot of this changes in 3-player because you don't have to deal with AI, so pretty much everything gets sped up, but the strats themselves aren't really any different between 2 and 3-player. There aren't any strats that you can go for that you couldn't go for otherwise. You just save time like literally everywhere. You know, you don't have to wait for the AI anywhere. You don't have to do any fancy tricks in the bathroom to get the AI to follow you in particular directions. Herbology is somehow even worse because now you have to get 2 characters around these corners. But yeah, everything else is just like a straight benefit for 3-player. You just have to be a little bit more wary that sometimes it's not exactly worth it to drop in a character. The time save you get from having another character might be worse than the time that you gain from, or the time you lose from dropping them in. But yeah, that's I think that's everything about the route that needs explaining. Let me try to find. Did I not highlight it? Did we get it in this one? Oh yeah, we do this. We just make a little mistake there. Yeah, this is usually how this would go. You'd grab this one from the bottom. I mentioned earlier that if you don't stand if you stand too close to the stairs, Harry will sometimes jump, which will cause you to drop the cauldron, which is exactly what happens here. So I start lifting it, and then once it's in the air, Harry takes a step towards the cauldron. When that happens, he goes over the steps, which causes him to jump as if he's like falling down a ledge. And that forces you to let go of the cauldron. So that's something you don't want to let happen. Grab that mini, and yeah. So again, I don't have a... Wait, I can show... I can at least show what this looks like. Because I get it here. Yeah, you just grab that, break that, run up. And then, since you have 2 characters in co-op, you can just pull this bridge immediately. But yeah, I think that's everything from co-op that I wanted to show off. Hopefully this helps learn the harder strats or anything like that.